Today, I'm showing the most important pros and cons so that you don't make a huge mistake by moving here if it's not for you. My team and I specialize in helping viewers just like you relocate to the Clovis area. You're going to want to watch the entire video before you make any big decisions. After living in South Fresno for most of my childhood and some of my teenage life, I feel like I was pretty used to living in the city. I was about 14 when my dad and I moved up to North Clovis, and we rented a house. Well, he rented a house. I was too young to rent the house. But I think I was still too young to really appreciate that Clovis atmosphere. Once I moved back home to go to Fresno State and back in with my dad, I really appreciated how quiet and convenient Clovis could be. It has that small town feel, but still with those big city conveniences, and honestly, that's one of the major draws of living in Clovis. The city itself is cozy, community-driven, where you can know your neighbors, but also small businesses still thrive. From visiting your favorite local coffee shop, heading to church, or even going to some of the many farmers markets, it feels like a tight-knit but still lively community. Along with plenty of mom and pop shops and those small local businesses, there's still Targets, Walmarts, and even a Costco for when you need to do that major shopping. Costco is a dangerous place for me. I don't know how we end up spending so much money there. I'm a sucker for bulk supplies. But what sets Clovis apart is that it's just a few minutes away from those big city Fresno amenities. If you need to pick something up from River Park or maybe catch a concert over at the Save Mart Center, it's just a short drive away. So the best part is you get to live in that quiet, family-oriented town while still getting access to those big city amenities. So if you love restaurants, shopping malls, and entertainment, but you still want that quiet, suburban lifestyle, Clovis could be the best place for you. Once I was old enough to get a job and start making my own money, it became very quickly apparent that prices are going to vary drastically from town to town. Of course, major box stores are going to have pretty set prices, but rent and home values feel terribly out of reach for the average wage. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Clovis isn't exactly the cheapest place to live in the Central Valley. Places like Fresno, Madera, Sanger, they're all going to have lower rent and home prices than you might find in Clovis. But why is that? Well, Clovis is in such high demand. People want to live here for the schools, the community, and the quality of life. And that drives home prices way up. So while it may feel out of reach for a lot of the locals that live here, it's actually very reasonable when you compare it to other California markets. If you're renting, you're going to pay more for a house in Clovis than you would in Fresno. That's a no-brainer. If you're buying a house, you're probably going to sacrifice some square footage for that same dollar value instead of something you'd get in Fresno. Honestly, even if it's just across the street. A lot of those master plan communities and gated communities have HOA fees, which will start adding up that monthly expenses as well. Not to mention how the extreme weather can affect your expenses, but we'll put a pin in that until later in the video. If you're relocating from a bigger city in California, like San Jose, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, or if you're moving from out of state, you might be pleasantly surprised by how much your dollar gets you in Clovis. But it's still important to account for that higher cost of living. Now that Jill and I are deep in our newlywed stage and we're considering starting our own family and having children, our priorities have shifted quite a bit from what they used to be now that we're planting some really extreme roots. We want to be close to family, but also education is going to become a major factor, private schools versus public schools, and communities where there are lots of other families around for our children to play with. If schools are a priority for you, then Clovis Unified School District might be a huge selling point. It consistently ranks as one of the top districts in all of California, especially for its academic success, its strong extracurricular activities, and some of the top sports programs in the area. When I was in high school, I loved playing against other Clovis schools because the facilities were so nice. Some of those baseball fields were honestly better than some of the semi-pro fields that I got to play in the summers. Parents also love that their kids can get a high-quality education without having to pay those private school prices. Some of those private school tuitions can rival the prices you'd pay at Fresno State University. Having a kid who attends these Clovis high schools can really give you peace of mind knowing that they're getting a top-rated education, but also some of the highest regarded coaching in the valley. Even if you don't have kids, living in a top-rated school district can be very beneficial. Home values tend to hold up better long-term because there are so many long-term homeowners and people looking to move into the school district to plant their own roots, similar to what Jill and I are going through right now. This can mean better stability and higher resale value in the future. So if education is of major importance to you, Clovis can be one of the best options not only in the valley, but also in the entire state. Here at Living in Clovis, our goal is to provide you with as much valuable information as we can as you're looking to relocate to the area. According to our data, 99% of our viewers aren't subscribed. So if you'd like to help support the channel, hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you. Even with such a highly regarded school district, there are still some major considerations that need to be taken into account if you're planning to move to Clovis. Since I've lived in the valley pretty much my entire life, I've never really had to adjust to the atmosphere. This is just what I know. But having family who lives in other states who have to deal with major humidity, snow, and even sub-zero temperatures, I've really come to understand how unique the weather here is in the valley. So let's talk about the weather. While the sunny, warm climate can be a big pro for a lot of people, those summers can be downright intense. In fact, I've made an entire video dedicated to how intense that summer can be. We're talking triple-digit temperatures for weeks at a time, even months at a time. In fact, we had triple digits as far as October this past year. If you're not a fan of the heat, this could be a major downside. However, Clovis is built to handle this hot summer in a few ways. First, most properties have air conditioning, which isn't something that you'll find in some of the larger areas in the state. My friends in Monterey, no air conditioning. My friend in San Francisco, no air conditioning. Many people have moved over to solar panels. In fact, it's a huge selling point for a lot of properties, but solar panels can still be misleading as far as the costs. If your solar panels aren't owned outright, and instead they're a power purchase agreement or they're leased, you can end up paying more for energy than you would if you didn't have the panels at all. So always check your solar contract before you buy a home. Clovis is also dotted with shady parks, pools, and lakes nearby, which can help cut those costs a little bit. But if you're someone who still enjoys a mild coastal type weather year round, Clovis is definitely not that. A lot of the comments in that video about the heat asked about the winters here as well, so I want to talk about the cold season a little bit. And I say cold with air quotes because our winters are pretty mild. Sometimes the high daytime temperature can drop to about 50 degrees or a little bit below. Our nighttime temperatures can drop below freezing, which is 32 degrees, which mostly affects our local farmers. We don't get as much rain as some places in other states, but when it does, it can rain for days or weeks at a time. In fact, it's actually raining right now. Because our rain is so rare, a lot of the times the streets will flood when it rains. It's just all those leaves that get stuck in the drains, and especially if it's raining for days at a time, the amount that we get is just too much for our infrastructure to handle. So if you're someone who is forced to drive through the rain for work or traveling, then it could be a major hazard and consideration. Another consequence of the moist weather is going to be dense fog, especially out in that Clovis countryside or in areas like Highway 168 or Highway 99. That fog can be pretty intense. If you're someone who has to commute a long distance for work, that drive can be pretty dicey sometimes. On the other hand, something I really took for granted in my youth is just how much outdoor activity can be here in Clovis, especially in the spring. With my severe allergies, I've been known to avoid outdoor activities as much as I possibly can, aside from baseball. Seriously though, this eye has been itchy all day. Spring is nearly here. All the flowers are blooming, all the trees are blooming. It's beautiful, but this is honestly the worst time of year for me. I would rather take the heat than all of the allergies in the spring. On that note though, all the walking trails and parks has become a major selling point for us as we start to plan our family. One of the most surprising aspects of Clovis is just how much nature is in the city. If you love outdoor activities, Clovis could be a place for you. Besides the miles of biking, walking, and hiking trails, it's also relatively nearby some of the biggest natural wonders in not only California, but also the world. I'm talking about Yosemite National Park, Kings Canyon National Park, also Shaver Lake is nearby. Admittedly, with my aversion to going outdoors, I often forget that those natural wonders are there, even though I can see the mountains from pretty much any part of town. But I've never regretted making that short drive to see those actually world-renowned views. And whenever we have family come visit us, Yosemite is always at the top of the list of things to do. We really appreciate how easy it is to plan a weekend getaway. There are several beaches in under 3 hours, several mountains in under 2 hours. Lake Tahoe or Los Angeles are under 4 or 5 hours depending on traffic. A few of my cousins left for Disneyland this morning and they've already gotten there and are enjoying the rides right now. Jill and I really love going up to Monterey. Highly recommend. Sometimes it's foggy, but most of the time the weather's between 60 and 70 degrees. There are plenty of restaurants and activities to do like the aquarium or just walking on the beach. I don't want to underemphasize how many places you can get to in just 2 or 3 hours. Major selling point. But with all the driving and natural wonders nearby, one of the major concerns in Clovis is the air quality, especially with all that outdoor activity. The city is located in the San Joaquin Valley, which is notorious for having some of the worst air quality in all of California, especially in those summer months. The combination of agricultural activity, vehicle emissions, and natural disasters like fires can really contribute to how bad the air actually gets. I had severe asthma when I was a kid, and for people with respiratory issues, that air quality can become a major issue whether you're inside or outside. But the worst time of year is wildfire season. Whenever there's a fire in California, the wind will blow that smoke and it will settle down here in the San Joaquin Valley. A few years back, you'd walk outside and it would look like it's snowing. You'd find your car covered in ash, the air was thick, it was hard to breathe. It was gray instead of blue. Awful. Awful year. That said, there are some ways to cope with that poor air quality. Many homes are outfitted with air purifiers or advanced filtration systems that can help keep that indoor air quality better than outside. If you are sensitive to the air quality, staying indoors in a properly ventilated room can help quite a bit. Once you relocate here, it's important to check those air quality forecasts and take necessary precautions. It's something to strongly consider, especially when one of the major draws is outdoor activity. Despite those air quality issues, Clovis has seen some significant economic growth over the past few years. The job market is incredibly strong, especially in areas like healthcare, education, and agriculture. In fact, in my own family, I have several healthcare providers and teachers. Mad respect for them because both jobs are incredibly difficult. Off the back of 2020 and 2023, we saw a lot of Bay Area workers move to Clovis because a lot of those tech companies moved to remote work. But it sounds like a lot of those workers are having to report back to work, which means a lot of those houses are going back up for sale, albeit a little higher in price than when they moved here in the first place. But there's still ample opportunity to snag the home that you're looking for. Beyond those traditional industries, small businesses also thrive in Clovis. Microbreweries have been popping up everywhere and they've been doing incredibly well. My wife Jill is actually a local nutritionist who started her own business. She services Clovis specifically, and as she launched her business, the locals have been incredibly receptive and supportive. So if you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a local business owner, Clovis has plenty of resources and a supportive community to get you started. If you're looking for a place with job opportunity and a strong economic environment, Clovis could be a great fit for you. Now in terms of getting to work, I've had friends living in Fresno who've taken the bus all the way from the south part up to the north part in River Park just to get to work. That's a long way. I see buses all the time in Fresno and I swear I always get stuck behind them when they have to stop. Clovis, on the other hand, I don't think I've ever seen a bus there. There's a Clovis shuttle, but as far as public transportation, it's incredibly limited. If you rely on public transportation, Clovis might not be the most convenient place for you. For people moving from a major city where public transit is exceptional, this could feel like a big step backwards. That said, if you're used to driving in a car, this isn't that much of an issue. Clovis is designed around driving a car. The roads are easy to navigate, well maintained, and there's usually little to moderate traffic, which we'll talk about in a little bit. After visiting some family in smaller towns in other states, I've really come to realize just how fortunate I am to live in an area with straight roads. Never thought I'd say that. But this is still something to keep in mind if you're planning on living car-free. Walkability is also going to vary from neighborhood to neighborhood. If you're trying to land that house that's near entertainment, grocery stores, outdoor activities, your local school, it might be tough to find all of those things that are in walkable distance. But if you're looking for parks and trails, those are in such abundance in Clovis that there's usually one nearby. So while the lack of public transit may be a drawback for some, it's really just an issue of adjusting to the lifestyle. Even if getting around isn't the most convenient, one thing you'll immediately notice moving to Clovis is how well the public services are managed. From street maintenance to emergency response time, the city really takes pride in ensuring that its residents feel safe and supported. Clovis is known for its emergency response times. Whether it's fire, police, or ambulance, the local teams are usually very quick to respond. This is crucial for families who want that extra peace of mind. The city also puts significant effort in making sure the roads are clean, well lit, and safe for everyone. You'll see plenty of maintenance and improvement projects that show the city really cares about improving its infrastructure. Besides those essential services, Clovis also has many parks, clean streets, and essential services to create that robust sense of community. It consistently ranks high in terms of public service compared to other Central Valley cities. Personally, I've seen how this benefits homeowners here. Not only does it make people feel safe and well taken care of, but it also contributes to a higher quality of life here in the valley. Good public service translates to better long-term stability for its residents. Because public transit is limited and the roads are so good, Traffic congestion can become another major issue, especially around rush hour. With most people commuting by car, some of those major roads like Highway 168 or all the roads leading to and from Fresno can become pretty congested. Clovis is growing rapidly, and with that growth means more cars on the road. While the city does its best to manage traffic flow, there's still bottlenecks, especially during rush hour. If you're someone who prefers a more relaxed commute or is used to low traffic, Clovis can be frustrating at times. That said, Clovis is not nearly as bad as those larger cities like Los Angeles or the Bay Area. It's definitely manageable, but something to take into consideration if you have a longer commute. Neighborhoods around schools will also see larger traffic concentrations about the time when school starts and finishes. But that's probably true in any area. To mitigate the traffic, I try to schedule or plan my route around those busiest times. If you're used to a quieter commute, it's important to remember that the growth of the city could potentially lead to higher commute times down the road. Pun intended. But that's just it, isn't it? Clovis is growing substantially, which is a major pro if you're someone looking to move here. It means there are plenty of real estate opportunities, economic stability. The steady home prices and growing demand for properties means that Clovis is an excellent place to plant roots or invest. Clovis has seen significant growth in the real estate market over the years, and this trend is not slowing down anytime soon. As many people are drawn to Clovis for its quality of life, the demand for housing here is just going to increase. Whether you're looking for a single-family home, a starter home, or a property to invest in, Clovis has a range of properties that fit different price ranges and preferences. In fact, a lot of the clients that we get from calls from YouTube are between $400,000 and $800,000, and sometimes even a little bit more. One of the unique aspects of Clovis's real estate market is the long-term stability that it offers. Homes typically retain or increase in value over time. In fact, there's been about a 20 to 35% increase just over the past 4 years. I think the old adage is the best time to buy a house is 10 years ago. In fact, I was just talking to a family member about how ridiculous it is when you look on websites like Zillow and someone bought a house for $800,000 and it's $1 million now. But 3 years from now, we're going to say the same thing, right? I can't believe they bought it for $1 million and now it's $1.3 million. That's just the way that it goes. If you're looking to buy a home in Clovis, it's important to consider how fast the market moves as well. Because there's such high demand, properties can move in as little as 2 to 7 days, while others might take 2 to 3 months to sell. So if you are someone who's looking to get into some of those more desirable neighborhoods or one of the more competitive high schools, it's important to have your ducks in a row and really prepare for that move. If you're looking to buy a home in Clovis and you're looking for top-tier representation, please give our team a call. But finding a home in Clovis isn't as simple as finding the right neighborhood or making those lifestyle adjustments. It's about knowing the market, the best timing, and the best strategies to getting you into the right home. To help you navigate this process, click the playlist on screen where we go over the most important aspects of buying a home here in Clovis.